Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in life when everything feels too heavy, like the world is sitting on your chest, and even breathing takes effort. You look around and it seems like everyone else is handling things better than you. But let me tell you something. The strongest people are not the ones who never fall. They're the ones who train their minds to rise, even when they are still hurting. Every situation in life is not meant to break you. Some are designed to shape you, and the only way to survive them is to train your mind before the storm arrives. Your mind is your first home. Build it strong before life shakes your walls. From the moment you open your eyes each day, your thoughts start building the world you live in. Before you speak to anyone, before the day unfolds, your mind begins whispering. It tells you stories about who you are, what you can do, and what is coming next. That voice inside your head becomes the first place you live. If that place is filled with chaos, doubt, fear, and shame, then even the most beautiful days will feel like prisons. But if that place is calm, focused, steady, and kind, then even in the middle of pain, you will have peace. Building a strong mind does not happen by accident. It is not a result of just reading a book or hearing one motivational quote. It is a daily practice, a quiet decision you make every morning to be in charge of your inner world, no matter what happens outside. And this is not about being fake or ignoring your feelings. It is about knowing that your mind sets the tone of your life. So if your mind is your home, ask yourself, is it a place you feel safe in, or is it constantly attacking you? The strength of your mind is not measured by how much you know. It is measured by how you respond when things do not go your way. Think of a house built on weak foundation. When the storm comes, the walls crumble. But a house built with care, with layers of protection and support, will stand even when the winds scream. That is how your mind should be. A place where storms can hit, but peace stays. Now you might say, but I have been through so much. My thoughts are already full of pain, and that is okay. That is where you begin. Strength is not the absence of scars. It is learning how to live with them without letting them define you. You start by noticing your thoughts. What kind of stories are you feeding your mind every day? Are they making you stronger, or are they making you sink? When something bad happens, a weak mind says, why me? A strong mind says, what now? That shift alone changes everything. One is a question that keeps you stuck. The other is a doorway to growth. You train your mind to stop asking painful questions that have no answers, and instead start looking for the next step. You do not need to see the entire staircase. Just the next step is enough. And you practice not just in big moments, but in small daily things. When your tea spills, when your plan changes, when someone forgets your effort, you use those moments to build patience, grace, and clarity. Because if your mind can stay calm in small chaos, it will be ready when the big ones arrive. Strong minds are not loud. They do not argue to prove their worth. They do not panic when things shift. They observe, they breathe, and then they choose their response. Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. And that wisdom, it comes from training, from falling and rising and falling again, until your mind knows this fall is not the end. So if your life feels messy right now, go back to your mind, build it, protect it, love it. It is the only home you carry with you in every situation for the rest of your life. Emotional reactions destroy clarity. Discipline protects it. There is something dangerous about reacting too quickly, something that feels so right in the moment, but leaves a trail of regret behind. When someone says something that cuts deep, the natural instinct is to respond, to defend, to shout, to prove your worth in that very second. But that is the trap. The moment you react purely from emotion, you give away your power. Your clarity disappears. And all that is left is noise. Noise in your words, in your actions, and in your mind. Emotions are powerful. They are part of being human. But they are meant to be felt, not followed blindly. Because emotions come and go like weather. They rise like waves. And if you let them steer the ship, you will crash into things that were never in your path. Discipline is what holds the steering wheel steady. It says, feel it, but do not let it rule you. It gives you the space to breathe before you move, to think before you speak, to choose before you act. When you train yourself to pause, even just for a few seconds, you make room for clarity. You allow your higher mind to step in and ask, is this worth it? Will this help, or will this make things worse? And that pause, that small moment of self-control, can change everything. You stop yourself from sending that message you'll regret. You stop yourself from reacting to people who do not deserve a reaction. You stop yourself from turning a small misunderstanding into a permanent wound. Most people confuse strength with loudness. They think being strong means responding immediately, defending themselves at every turn, never letting anything slide. But real strength is quiet. It is calm. It walks away from drama, not because it cannot fight, but because it knows peace is more valuable than winning a pointless argument. Discipline is what helps you walk away. It is the quiet voice inside that says, not every battle is mine. Not every fire needs my fuel. Clarity cannot exist in chaos. When your heart is racing and your mind is spinning, nothing you say or do will reflect who you truly are. You will speak from pain, not purpose. You will act from anger, not alignment. And then you will wonder why things keep getting worse. That is why discipline is not about being cold or robotic. It is about protecting your peace. It is about staying rooted while everything around you tries to pull you into confusion. Think of someone you admire not for what they say, but for how they stay calm when everyone else is losing their mind. That is not a gift. That is training. That is the result of choosing silence over shouting, breathing over breaking, listening over lashing out. And that kind of training is not easy. It takes time. You will fail. You will react. You will regret. But every time you try again, you are teaching your mind to respond differently. You will face people who misunderstand you, who challenge you, who poke at your weak spots just to see if you'll break. And sometimes you will come close. But when you choose discipline, you are choosing to stay whole, to not give others the power to control your state of mind, to not let their chaos become yours. It is a quiet revolution that begins inside, not with loud declarations, but with soft refusals. Not today, not this time, not like this. You keep choosing clarity. You keep choosing control. You keep choosing yourself. Choose perspective over panic. Panic feels like drowning. It takes over your breathing, your thoughts, your heart rate. It clouds your vision and convinces you that everything is falling apart, even when it is not. The moment panic enters, clarity leaves. You cannot see options. You cannot hear reason. All you know is fear. And when you make decisions from that place, they are rarely the right ones. But perspective is different. It does not silence reality, but it puts it in context. It lets you zoom out, take a breath, and realize that one moment does not define your entire life. That one problem, no matter how big it feels, is still a page, not the whole book. Perspective is something you choose. It is not about pretending everything is fine. It is about finding a way to see beyond what is screaming at you. It is standing in the middle of the storm and saying, "This is hard, but it is not hopeless." It is remembering past challenges you thought you would not survive and realizing you are still here. Panic tells you this is the end. Perspective tells you this is part of the journey. When something unexpected happens, your first reaction might be fear. That is human. But what you do next, that is where the training begins. Do you let that fear spiral into worst-case scenarios? Do you believe every negative thought your mind throws at you? Or do you pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, what else could be true here? Maybe this delay is a redirection. Maybe this failure is a teacher. Maybe this moment is not as permanent as it feels. That shift in mindset can change everything. Not just how you feel, but what you do next. Perspective makes space for solutions. When you stop panicking, your brain can actually think. You start to see options you missed before. You become creative instead of reactive. You ask better questions. You listen more carefully. You realize that most of what scares you is temporary. And even the things that are not, you begin to see how they can be carried, how they can shape you, how they can lead to growth you never asked for, but probably needed. One of the most powerful habits you can build is asking yourself, will this matter a year from now? It is not about dismissing real problems. It is about breaking their illusion of total power. Most of the things that trigger panic are immediate, loud, and uncomfortable, but not always important in the long run. When you remind yourself of the bigger picture, you shrink the fear. You bring the situation back to its true size. Perspective also gives you compassion. When you're not panicking, you are more present. You become kinder to yourself. You stop judging every mistake as proof that you are failing. You start seeing yourself as someone who is learning, someone who is navigating life the best they can. You forgive faster. You let go more easily. You stop trying to control everything and start trusting that you can handle whatever comes. Choosing perspective does not mean you never feel fear again. It means you stop letting fear make your decisions. It means you recognize that every thought is not truth. Every emotion is not a command. You can feel fear and still choose to act from wisdom. You can feel pressure and still move with intention. That is the strength that comes from a trained mind. Not the absence of difficulty, but the ability to stay rooted when difficulty arrives. And the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. You begin to meet chaos with curiosity instead of panic. You start asking, what is this moment trying to show me, instead of why is this happening to me? That shift turns pain into purpose, confusion into clarity, and fear into a stepping stone instead of a wall. Detachment is strength, not indifference, but mastery of emotion. There is a quiet kind of power that comes from not letting everything affect you. People often confuse it with being cold or distant, but detachment is not about shutting your heart off. It is about protecting your energy. It is about understanding that not every emotion deserves your full attention, and not every situation deserves a reaction. When you are deeply attached to everything, every word, every outcome, every opinion, you become a slave to circumstances. Your peace becomes fragile, your confidence starts depending on people, and your entire mood is hijacked by things outside your control. Detachment teaches you how to stay steady. It shows you how to love people without losing yourself, how to work hard without becoming obsessed with results, how to care deeply without clinging desperately. It is not that you stop feeling, you just stop allowing your feelings to overpower your decisions. You stop living in reaction mode. You begin to observe, to listen, to process, and then respond with clarity. That is where real power begins. We are taught to care, to give our best, to show up with passion and presence. And all of that is beautiful. But without detachment, it becomes dangerous. Because when your entire identity is tied to one person's approval or one plan's success, you give that thing the power to destroy you. One harsh word can shatter you. One missed opportunity can crush you. That is not strength. That is dependency, dressed as passion. Detachment says, I care, but I am not controlled. It says, I want this, but I will be okay without it. In relationships, detachment means loving someone without needing them to complete you. You stop demanding that they behave a certain way just to make you feel secure. You begin to love freely, give openly, and let go peacefully. You stop trying to control their actions and start focusing on your own peace. That shift alone removes so much conflict. You stop chasing. You stop begging. You stop overthinking every message, every tone, every silence. And in that space, you finally breathe. In your work, detachment means giving your best without burning out in the name of results. You stop tying your worth to success or failure. You learn to enjoy the process, to grow from the journey, without obsessing over the destination. You do your part with discipline, and then you trust. You allow life to unfold. This does not make you less ambitious. It makes you more powerful, because your confidence is no longer built on outcomes, but on effort and intention. Emotional mastery is not about pretending you feel nothing. It is about knowing what to feel, when to feel it, and how deeply to let it enter. Detachment gives you the ability to pause and ask, is this mine to carry? If it is not, you gently put it down. You do not let every story enter your mind. You do not let every insult build a home in your heart. You stay rooted like a tree that feels the wind, but does not fall with it. This practice does not happen overnight. At first, everything will still sting. You will still get pulled into other people's chaos. You will still care too much. But over time, with awareness and effort, you begin to create space between you and the world. Not to disconnect from life, but to connect with it in a healthier way. You stop living on edge. You stop reacting instantly. You begin to witness life instead of being consumed by it. And from that place, you begin to live lighter, stronger, free. Do not wait for peace to practice peace. Train during chaos. Everyone wants calm. Everyone dreams of quiet mornings, clear thoughts, no stress, no noise. But life does not always give you that luxury. The world outside is rarely peaceful. People are unpredictable. Timelines are tight, mistakes happen, and emotions rise when you least want them to. If you only know how to stay calm when everything is already calm, then you are not truly peaceful. You are just comfortable, and comfort is temporary. Chaos is inevitable. So the real test, the real growth begins when you learn how to practice peace in the middle of noise. Peace is not a place you visit, it is a skill you build. And like every other skill, you need to train it where it is hardest to find. Think of a dancer practicing balance, not in a studio but on a shaky floor. That is how peace works. You do not wait for the perfect moment. You train your mind when the floor is shaking, when everything is going wrong, when people are yelling, deadlines are crashing, and your patience is hanging by a thread. That is where your practice begins. There is a part of you that wants to run from discomfort. That part will say, "I'll be calm once this is over," or "I just need things to settle down." But if you listen to that voice, you will spend your whole life waiting for people to behave, waiting for circumstances to improve, waiting for your environment to give you permission to feel okay. Peace does not wait. Peace does not depend on anything outside of you. It starts when you stop blaming the world for your inner storm and begin calming yourself regardless of what the world is doing. When someone speaks to you in anger, peace is not silence, it is restraint. When your plans collapse, peace is not pretending it does not matter, it is choosing your response. When your heart is breaking, peace is not acting like you feel nothing, it is finding the stillness underneath the pain. That kind of peace is earned. It comes from facing real situations, not running from them, from breathing through the panic, from grounding yourself while your emotions beg you to lose control. You practice it in small things. When traffic slows you down, when your phone keeps ringing, when someone interrupts you, when things do not go your way. These are not just random annoyances. These are your training grounds. Life is constantly giving you tiny moments to practice peace, not to punish you but to prepare you. Because if you can stay steady in the little things, you are more likely to stay steady when the big storms hit. People often think peace looks like yoga mats and meditation music, and while that can help, real peace is much simpler. It is in the breath you take before replying, the pause before reacting, the decision to not match someone else's bad energy. It is a quiet kind of power, not to suppress your feelings, but to rise above them, to see what is happening, acknowledge it, and still choose to protect your state of mind. The more you train in chaos, the more natural peace becomes. At first you will fail, you will snap, shout, panic, cry, but if you keep showing up, keep trying, keep noticing where your peace breaks, you start to see patterns. You start to catch yourself sooner, and little by little, your mind rewires, your reactions slow down, your awareness sharpens, your calm becomes stronger than your chaos. Habits shape mental strength more than motivation. Motivation feels amazing. It is that rush of energy when you hear something inspiring, or when you get a new idea, it makes you believe that you can do anything. But the truth is, motivation does not last. It fades. It comes and goes like a wave. You cannot rely on something so unstable to build a strong mind. What actually shapes your mental strength, what truly builds resilience and focus and calm, is your daily habits. The small repeated actions you do when no one is watching. The quiet routines that seem boring but are actually transforming you without you even noticing. Every time you choose a healthy habit, you're teaching your mind discipline. You're telling your brain, I show up, no matter how I feel. That message is powerful, because feelings are fickle. You might feel excited today and drained tomorrow. You might feel focused this morning and scattered by afternoon. But if your habits are strong, they carry you through those waves. They become your anchor when your emotions try to drift you off course. Mental strength is not about always being in a good mood. It is not about being fearless or never having doubts. It is about doing what needs to be done, even when your mind is screaming otherwise. That kind of strength can only be built through repetition. When you wake up and meditate for 5 minutes every day, you're not just calming your nerves, you're training your brain to pause. When you journal before bed, you're not just writing, you're learning how to process your thoughts. When you take a walk instead of scrolling endlessly, you're not just moving your body, you're choosing clarity over distraction. These may seem like small things, but together, they change everything. People wait for motivation to start something important. They say, I'll begin when I feel ready, or I just need the right mindset. But mental strength does not come from waiting. It comes from doing. Even when your bed feels warmer than the world, even when your thoughts are loud and messy, even when progress feels invisible, that is when habits matter the most. Because they remind you who you are and what you're capable of. Even when your mind forgets. When you build strong habits, you also remove decision fatigue. You do not have to think about whether or not to do something. You just do it. It becomes automatic. That automation frees your mental energy for more important things. You do not waste your day battling with yourself over every little choice. Your habits handle it for you. That kind of structure gives your mind space to breathe, space to reflect, space to grow. It is tempting to chase big changes, to believe that one major breakthrough will make everything better. But real change comes in tiny steps. Drinking more water, getting enough sleep, saying no when you need to, practicing gratitude, speaking kindly to yourself. These are not dramatic. No one will applaud you for them, but they are the bricks that build mental strength. Quiet, consistent, and strong. You will not always see results right away. You might go weeks or months without feeling like anything is shifting. But if your habits are good, change is happening beneath the surface. Your mind is learning how to stay calm, how to focus, how to bounce back. And one day when life throws something heavy at you, you will realize you can handle it. Not because you were inspired, but because you were prepared. You did the work. You trained your mind quietly, and now it stands strong. Even when the world does. The mind listens. Teach it what to believe. Every thought you repeat becomes a belief. Every belief you reinforce becomes your truth. And every truth you hold shapes the way you see the world, yourself, and your possibilities. The mind is always listening, not just to what others say, but to what you say. The quiet inner conversations, the jokes you make about yourself, the labels you use, the doubts you replay, all of it is information. Your mind picks it up and starts building a reality around it. That is why it is so important to be intentional with the messages you feed your own brain. Most people do not realize how much of their suffering is self-created. They wake up and say, I'm tired, I'm not good enough, nothing ever works for me. And even if those words come out casually, the mind does not treat them casually. It stores them, stacks them, and slowly builds an internal narrative that becomes harder to escape. You begin to look at life through that lens. Opportunities don't feel real. Compliments feel like lies. Setbacks feel like proof that you're failing. But all of that started with a thought, one you probably didn't even mean to believe. Your mind is like a garden. If you don't plant anything, weeds will grow. If you're not actively teaching your mind what to focus on, it will pick up whatever is loud, dramatic, or familiar. And a lot of that is negative. That's why training your mind is not about forcing fake positivity. It is about teaching it balance, teaching it to recognize what is helpful and what is harmful, to question thoughts instead of obeying them blindly, to separate truth from fear and story from fact. Start with how you speak to yourself. Every time you say, I can't, ask yourself, why not? Every time you think, this always happens to me, challenge it. Does it really always happen? Or is your mind highlighting the negative to keep you in the loop of fear? Thoughts are not commands, they're suggestions, and you get to choose which ones to follow. The more you question them, the more power you take back. Next, teach your mind new language. Not slogans or cliches, but truthful, grounded thoughts that build resilience. Tell yourself, I've been through hard things before, and I'm still standing. Remind yourself, I don't need to be perfect to be worthy. When you make a mistake, say, this is how I learn. When you feel fear, whisper, this feeling is not permanent. These are not magic words. They are tools, and the more you use them, the more natural they become. Also be mindful of what you consume. Your mind listens to what you watch, what you read, who you spend time with. If your surroundings are filled with negativity, comparison, and chaos, your mind will mirror that. But if you surround yourself with people who speak with kindness, who challenge you with compassion, who remind you of your potential, your inner voice will begin to shift. Not overnight, but slowly, steadily, like a sunrise after a long night. When the old beliefs come back, and they will, you do not fight them with anger. You meet them with awareness. You say, I see you, I know why you're here, but I don't believe you anymore. And you return to what you've been teaching your mind, that you are capable, that you are evolving, that you are allowed to begin again. Every single day you get the chance to teach your mind a new story, one that does not come from fear or past pain, but from truth, love, and possibility.